Last Saturday was my 30-year high school reunion. And you know what? I intentionally did not go. Part of it was pretty simple. I think I wanted to remember everyone the way I remember them, right? The way they were, right? In my mind, they were teenagers. They're still teenagers, walking around the halls. Still the same people I remember from 30 years ago. Then I saw some of the pictures from the reunion, and afterward, I had this strange realization. I did not recognize almost anybody. And it wasn't like I didn't know people. I knew a lot of people in high school, but I didn't recognize them. And then, of course, the uncomfortable thought came to me, you know what? They probably wouldn't recognize me either. I mean, 30 years is a long time. We get older, we change, life happens, we put on some pounds. Not to say I did, but I think there was another reason I didn't really want to go. Because reunions inevitably come with that dreaded question. So what are you doing these days? And that's an interesting question when you're standing in front of people who knew you before adult life really began, right? Because somewhere in the back of your mind, you start wondering, did I become what I was supposed to become? Right? Did I live up to my potential? Would the people who knew me back then look at my life today and think I did something meaningful with it? Maybe you've asked yourself that question. Maybe you've thought by this age you'd be further along, more successful, more accomplished, more certain about where your life was going. The Apostle Paul wrote this in Philippians 3:13. He said, "Forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal." I love that because Paul understood something that we often forget. God is not finished writing your story. Your greatest days, they don't have to be days that you remember from high school, and your life doesn't have to be judged by whether it turned out exactly the way you imagined it would 10, 20, or even 30 years ago. God isn't asking you to compete with the person you thought you would become. He's asking you to faithfully follow him today. Maybe you've accomplished everything you dreamed about. Maybe you haven't. Maybe your life took turns you never expected. But as long as God has given you another day, there's still something ahead of you. There's still people to love, still good to do, still gifts to use, still lives you can influence, still a calling you can pursue. So don't spend too much time staring at who you used to be. Don't waste your life worrying about whether you've impressed the people who knew you back then. Press on toward what God has ahead of you, because your story, it's not over yet. And maybe your greatest contribution isn't behind you at all. Maybe it's still ahead. I'm Pastor Eric, and this is today's Live Word.